5th, and it's getting close to the end of Black History Month. Of course, we have had, I think, 4 programs already, but I think this program will be placed at the front as number 1 for Black History Month. And I'm going to do that, and I hope y'all have patience. We're going to try to cover quite a bit of territory, but it'll be in brief. This is an introduction to you, mostly to the young people. This is an introduction. With this series of videos, we're going to distribute right away. Like we got Howard over here, we got over in Baltimore, there's a university over there. It used to be a BSU. Yeah, over there in Baltimore. At Morgan State, yeah. Okay. Here's what we're going to do. In the next several months, we're going to saturate this area, but we're also going to get on the road. And I want any of y'all that are at universities, any of these BSUs, we find ourselves in an emergency. If we can get through this program without any interruption, we'll be able to solve part of that problem. What we want to address is some of the things that have been happening all along and some of the things that are happening right now. When we got up this morning, we said, this has been evolving, we said, this is it, it's time to get ready to go. Although we've been at this stage for maybe 10 years, you'll see when we read some of the stuff. We've been here kind of like on pause, waiting for the right opportunity to move forward in a big way. In fact, our last article was either 2010 or 2010 and a half. That was a while back. It was at least 10 years ago. Might have been 10 and a half. Okay. What we want to cover right now is if you went to the movies, or saw it on video, you might have saw a nice explanation of Fred Hampton's assassination and Mark Clark. They were not bad, but that happened 52 years ago, I think. Yeah, 69. I think that was 52 years ago. We have talked here at our masjid about recurring events trying to take us back to the 1960s. Those events would like, instead of us building a modern, up-to-date movement with modern goals and expectations, they would like to keep us back, which they have been, let's call it successful, in keeping our mind back in the 1960s and 70s and keep us functioning on those issues. I would like to read from an article from October 2002. Okay, that's 20 years ago. As-Sabiqun al-awwalun min al-muhajirin wal-ansar wat-tabi'in. When you learn Arabic, you'll get an idea of what that means. Nearly every society and every group of people has developed and inherited some vision of the perfect or near perfect state of being. In these imaginary land, the sky is the bluest, the water is the purest, and the air is the freshest. And the birds sing with an angelic harmony. It is a social and political oasis in which human being has overcome his base nature and developed through strong human will, and extraordinary intellect, a place where freedom rings and truth and justice flow down like a heavenly stream. Utopian socialism hold that in this society, propertied groups will peacefully and voluntarily relinquish their holdings in order to achieve a common ownership of the means of production. In James Hilton's novel, Lost Horizon, there existed a place, a virtual paradise on earth called Shangri-La. In the classic movie, The Wizard of Oz, there was a song that was sang called Somewhere Over the Rainbow, referring to a place where dreams can come true. These somewhat mythical places are an inspiration for visionaries and dreamers, opening up a whole vista of possibilities. In many cases, human reality can be disturbing, if not downright depressing. During times when humanity has sunk to the lowest level, when all hope is gone, the human mind needs some relief. In psychological studies, of course, my English is not that bad. It is said that during times of depression, relief may come to the mind through imagery, mental voyages, escapism, even drug use or alcoholism. For Muslims, we have our own utopia or Shangri-La. It is traveling back to the time of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Khulafa Rashidun, to a society that was in harmony with the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where taqwa flowed and the fruits of iman, that is faith, ikhlas, sincerity, were found throughout. The difference between us and others is that our flights of mental hopefulness were real and achievable. Our ideas of this Shangri-La type is truth and is real. It really existed. There was no time in history where according to Marx and Engels, a true communist society existed. There's no place where a true socialistic environment existed. Although there were attempts all over the world, even here in the U.S. in the 1820s and other times, there were towns around the U.S. that was built on socialist principles. But as the society began to push against them, it broke down their socialist and communist and human ideals, right, to getting back in the rat race or getting chewed up and destroyed. Okay, so it goes on to say, just as the great society once existed, something similar to it can exist again. Through proper human will and effort, it is achievable, even promised by our Creator. The only challenge is closing the gap between our current reality and the one that we dream of. This is the very mission of our As-Sabiqun movement. It is also our theme for this year's conference entitled Consolidation, Improvement, and Expansion. The title of this article, which we'll just read the part, One More Mountain to Climb, and it should have one more river to cross. You know, in African American songs and expectations, it was always something left. One more mountain to climb and one more river to cross. And then we'll be somewhere in heaven, or this highly expected. In slavery time, it was a river that we had to cross. It was Ohio River, Mississippi in some places, all these rivers that led up north. And we would follow the streams and we would follow the trees they had moss on one side. Why was it moss on one side? Because the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. And the only place the sun don't shine on a tree is on that north side. That's all you got to do is jump out in the woods and you say, man, I ain't going the right way. So every few miles, every few blocks, you just look at a tree, rub your hand on it, there's the moss. The sun have not shined on that spot, so moss grows. So we had all kind of expectations leading to the promised land, and everything would be all right in the promised land. And we wouldn't have to work no more as we did down the way. We do a little work here and there, but I got shoes, you got shoes. All of God's children are going to put on the shoes and going to walk all over God's heaven. Hey, man. In other words, you think, oh, well, if you saw that movie, what was the name of that thing, with Denzel Washington, Glory. One of the big parts in there was when the Negroes got shoes. All army get shoes, but they didn't. So you can't expect, because see, y'all probably a little young. I just turned 76 the other day. We got shoes too when we started the school. The rest of the time we was running around in the country barefooted. Everybody, not some of the people, but what was the sense of buying a kid shoes when they was going to outgrow them before they can wear them out? And therefore, we didn't have the money to waste on shoes. Especially out in the country, you're not going to step on no glass, cut your foot, or nothing like that, right? We all, until we started school, we were barefooted. That's in my time, okay? So a lot of things have changed recently. In fact, half of us, I go in the houses and I see the Negro might have 20 pairs of shoes. And all of them these modern, we used to call them tennis shoes, whatever they call them. Basketball shoes, everything. But they, that's a lot of shoes. Okay, people don't think about it now. That's a lot of shoes. When you would have, even when we got grown, we walked to school every day. Most black people, they wore their shoes out, and they used to have to go get them fixed. Or what would they do? We'd had cardboard in our shoes. You probably, the kids have never heard cardboard. Why did you have cardboard? Because right where your foot hit the ground, you wore a hole in that shoe. Right? And you had to put cardboard in there to stop, your foot from touching the ground.
My stepfather used to do that out of habit. When he was a kid, that's what they used to do.
It was a habit.
And so he didn't need to do it.
He didn't need to do it, but he kept on doing it. He couldn't think of throwing away a pair of shoes, throw them away because they got a hole in it. The Negro nowadays throw a pair of shoes. You can see shoes hanging up on the telephone. You couldn't see them like that in my day. Hey, man, good shoes hanging up on the wire. The Negro would have got electrocuted getting up there trying to get them shoes, right? That's the difference between now and then. And in my lifetime, that's totally changed. So now we want to think about this imaginary land. And this imaginary land is, it could be called Shangri-La. It had many names, and Lost Horizon it was Shangri-La. But these were imaginary lands. In the Wizard of Oz, that place was called, whatever it was called, the Wizard of Oz. But they had a song in there sang by Judy Garland. Now, in later years, the Negro ladies were singing it. They sound, not to prejudice, of course. They really put a spin on it. What was the lady from Philadelphia? I think of her name in a minute. Same lady dancing in the street. Martha Reeves. Yeah, Martha. It was Martha and the Vandellas when I was a kid. So Martha Reeves sang "Somewhere Over the Rainbow." And I'm not saying it was better than Julie Garland's, but it sure got you in the mood. Somewhere over the rainbows where dreams come true. Right? In that mythical place, the skies are bluest, the waters are freshest, and dreams come true in that land. Okay, now you and I are in a place, let's call it temporarily Negro land. And in the old days, this one more mountain to climb, one more river to cross, they always referred to the Jordan River in the old days. When you crossed that river, you was going to be in heaven, right? Now, even a Negro preacher haven't realized this. In the old days, crossing that river meant that you would be going into paradise, heaven, or to the promised land. Now, in modern times, it don't mean that. It means that you got to die before that, and you're going to heaven. Think about it. Even the Negro preachers don't know what happened. The black mind had became accustomed to America so much, no matter how they tried, no matter how much the future came, even now, today, right now, they're shooting down black people in the street. It is worse than slavery days, because in slavery days, the police say, don't shoot the nigga, that's all our money. Right? So they didn't shoot you in slavery days. But now there's no more need for you. So they still have those slave laws in place right now. That's what police departments were developed for. We'll bring you the literature next week. They were developed from slave catchers, from the time of slavery. That's what a police department, modern times, was developed for. And they still use it for the same thing, to hinder the progress of black people, to slow down the progress of black and brown peoples, right? And they do not arrest white people unless something go wrong. You know, they had something today in the press, it's been in there about, well, they had a warrant to search the man's property down in Natchez, I think of the city in a little while. But where they blew up this big trailer down there. Okay, I'll think of the city in a minute. Now, this guy, someone called the police on him, and they had a warrant to go search his house and to search, the premises. But when they went there, nobody was home, so they knocked a few times, and they looked around, and then they went away. They had probable cause because they had a warrant. If they come to your house, black people, with anything resembling a warrant, they're coming in, they're going to look around. They can't, there's no doubt about that. They're not giving you no warning. They coming in. That's where no knock and stop and frisk came from, that you don't have to knock anymore and say it's the police. If you got a warrant, hey, that's what those battering rams, all that is for. That's for black people. They don't do that to white people, as a general rule. Okay, so they went in. This is the same person's house that blew up something down there. The bomb, I saw the thing went off and blew off half the town, a few months back.
I know there was a gas leak that went off up in Baltimore.
No, this wasn't a gas leak. This was a guy that left that trailer or that trailer or that old van, big old van. Yeah, it blew up a few months back. But all right. So anyway, since this one more mountain to climb, one more river to cross, in our psychology, as we move closer to the present, we realize that we're going to get to heaven when we die. We'll get to the promised land. That's what it was about, the promised land when we die. We won't make it this time. Okay, the black preachers and all of us, they still sang the song, but they didn't catch the subtle giving up on environmental reality. Black people at one time gave up on the promised land, and they gave up on it. And you can see it right there in the song, right? Because dying or the promised land now meant when you die, you go over to that. Crossing the Jordan River didn't mean now going across to freedom in this land, in this world. That's what it meant before, crossing over the Jordan. Now, if somebody say he crossed over the Jordan, that means he died. You see what I mean? It didn't mean that before. So that was a certain period in the last century, in the early part of the last century, when the meaning, not the words, changed. That black people lost hope in this world that they're going to cross over into the promised land. In history, when they crossed over the promised land, the only one died was Moses. Moses stayed over on this side, and he never went into the promised land. But his followers went into the promised land, right? Martin Luther King, one of his last speeches, eventually our people will get to the promised land. All right, that's what he's saying. He says longevity has its place. Right? In other words, living a long time has a place. But he said, I may not get there with you, but our people will get to the promised land. That means they're going to be alive when they get there. They're not going to die. Right? This is Martin Luther King. He was saying the original meaning from when he was a child. That's what it meant. Getting to the promised land. You're going to be alive. You're going to, all the slavery, all the shackles, all the prejudices is going to evaporate, and you're going to be in the promised land. And I got shoes, you got shoes, all of God's children, they're going to put on the shoes, and what are they going to do? They're going to walk all over God's heaven. I'm telling you, boy, this was simple but digestible, mentally digestible in the heart, realities of a hopeful future. Okay, it didn't happen. It didn't happen because the slave patrol caught up with us, Congress caught up with us, all of that caught up with us, and every time you try to take a step toward freedom, if you had the Congressional Freedom Act, or whatever they call it, in 1964, they came by the voting right. Then they came back in 65 with another one, and eventually they kept wearing it down until today. They shoot black people today more than they did in the past. Yeah, they used to string up black people on a regular basis, but more black people get shot in modern times than more people got hung back in the day, in those days. Yes, they did, I'm telling you. All right, one more mountain to climb, one more river to cross. So this is what our duty is today, and I want to talk a little bit about it. If you can see right here, Revelation from Egypt to the Americas, Oakland and the American Islamic Revolution. You have up here Imam Jamil Al-Amin, and he's been in prison over 21 years. He's been in prison 21 years now, as of March 16th. he will be in there 21 years. Okay, so that means the last of his last 20 years, he's been in prison. This is an old flyer we had to raise money. This is our brother, Imam Luqman, up in Detroit. I don't want to tell you about all the things surrounding him, but he not only didn't have a fair trial, if he were to get a fair trial now, they've already ruined his life. Okay. Well, and that's a picture of me. Imam Jamil Alameen, Imam Luqman, who was assassinated in Detroit, and yours truly right here. We didn't make this up. What this flyer says to me and anybody that look at it, we got your number one homeboy, Jamil Alameen. He's in prison for the rest of his life. The other homeboy, which they are, he's dead. He ain't coming back. And you, nigga, you keep talking that gangster talk, and that's it for you. Here's our response. How to punk the FBI. Y'all ain't nothing but a bunch of punks. Now, you haven't seen no flyer with nothing like this. This is harassing them. They gonna put out stuff about me. I say, oh yeah, you a bunch of punks. Who you messing with? Who the hell you think you talking to? You gonna do something to somebody. That is different. Everybody is scared of J. Edgar Hoover. J. Edgar Hoover might have killed a lot of our friends, but we look at it like it's a new time. There's another thing we look at. We look at it like, okay, here's the reality. The reality is that every time, if we don't stand up, they're going to sell us a bill of goods. Every time they walk by, they got a bill of goods to sell us, something to sell me and you. It won't be freedom. They had our dear brother related, the original developer of the Rainbow Coalition. Our brother Fred Hampton and Mark Clark. Fred Hampton is the one that developed or initiated the Rainbow Coalition. What's the Rainbow Coalition? That was white people that was all involved with other peoples of color, and it's like all the beautiful colors of the rainbow, right? Jesse Jackson come in there, Uncle Jesse. Uncle Jesse came in there. He moved to Chicago. Remember, he was down in Dixie. Yeah. Not that he had the shirt of Martin Luther King with all the blood on it and stuff. That boy is a showman. And that boy is the biggest tattletale you ever seen. And he sold Martin Luther King's legacy for 50 cents. And he came on TV and everywhere else, and he became the so-called unofficial leader of the civil rights. This boy run for president in 86, 84, and again, I think in 88. He wasn't going to get nowhere, but at one time, Coca-Cola, you just give me $5 million for the Rainbow Coalition, which was a lot of money then, and we won't talk about Coca-Cola. And they give him the money. His whole operation was a shakedown the white man. Big white folks for personal money for his Rainbow Coalition. No, that's what he did. Everybody knows that. Messy Jesse. That's what he did. That's what happened to the civil. Why we haven't had nothing? All our leaders was killed in the late 60s and early 70s. Why we haven't had anything since then? Who have they had since then? They had Messy Jesse and a few more people going around, but they haven't had no Martin Luther Kings, no Malcolm X's, none of those people, because those people were uncompromising. Like Martin Luther King said it himself, he said, if I have to teach nonviolence, If I have to do it alone, by myself, that's what I'm going to do. That's what Martin Luther King said. Why? Because when we opposed the war in Vietnam, all the Negroes said, oh, Lord, you're going to make boss man mad. And I called, after I heard that Martin Luther King, I heard those great speeches, but when I was in Leavenworth and I haven't been able to get it, Martin Luther King gave a speech on Palestine. And it would be the best speech anybody. I heard it in 1976, 75, was in the penitentiary. Because on Sunday they'd had the black stuff on. And this was a lecture of Martin Luther King coming from the black church. But somebody, and go, if you think go around and try to find it. It might be some mentioned about it. But you can't find that lecture today. I haven't been able to find it. Nobody else has been able to find it. He made a talk on Palestine, and oh my goodness, this is the best lecture I ever heard. On Palestine, better than the Palestinians could make, because he's a black preacher. But see, okay, anyway, the promised land again. How to punk the FBI. You just a bunch of punks. You scare everybody else. Now, we're not just talking trash. We're telling you what we've said. This is 2007. We've been here. And we've been waiting, expecting something to come. And this morning we woke up, this is it. We know it's been coming all along. But all of these lectures have been leading to that. What has it been leading to? It's been leading to when they made that movie about Fred Hampton and all the kids and everybody would be sticking to it. It was a realization of what we've been talking about all the time. They give you something that keeps you back in the past. And that focus in the past, right? Whatever it is, a Rainbow Coalition, all that, look, you don't have to worry about, first of all, do your math. White people are now a minority. They're a technical minority. The next group of people are Latinos, brown people, then black people. Before it was white people, then black people, then brown people. It ain't like that now. They caught us in 2000. They said it was 39 million each. But they done flew past us on a jet plane. Why? In Washington, D.C. When I got here, it was teen pregnancy, babies having babies, 12-year-old girls having babies. Go down the street now and see how many pregnant black girls you see. You can stay, I sit there, so I'm going to see. I don't see none. Every now and then at the store, you might see black family, a woman with kids. They still have them, but I don't know where they have them, what they do with them. They just don't. They're not up in Benning Road. In those days, it was full of girls with kids. It was just full of people. They were talking about babies having babies. What happened? What did they put into the food? What did they do that all of a sudden we ain't having no kids before? No more. And Latinos done flew past us at 1,000 miles an hour. We was even in 2000. They say 39 million apiece. Boy, but look at here. It used to be no Mexicans in Carolina, no Mexicans nowhere, and now they're everywhere. Todos los partes de Estados Unidos, right? But that everywhere. They're everywhere. Now we lack them. They black and brown. So it ain't no difference. They're everywhere. So now they got white people marching around down in Virginia and other places. Jews will not replace us. Jews will not replace us. And the President of the United States egging them on. Yeah, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead, right? And all the stuff that they're doing, when they jumped on the Poe Capitol down there, they said, man, now see, if I give a speech and I say anything like, I can encourage you, you go down there and burn down the Capitol, that means I'm going to jail. Because I could say it's a good idea. I heard somebody say burn it down. It come from the burn, baby, burn laws. You know that you can't excite people to do. You can mention violence, but you can't say now y'all go down there. Don got on national TV. They got him all over the world. He said, now y'all go on down there. Not only just the police station, because white people refer to the citadel of justice. They call it stuff like that. Oh, and they like it too. Oh, they say, that's all been on TV and on the news the last few days about the police didn't do this. Now, I took my daughter down to the hospital that day. And I said, oh, look, them white folks, and they all saw it. My whole family saw. Them white folks is packing. And so my daughter said, let's go down. I said, I ain't going down there. I'm going back. I went way around the freeway to get back over here. Right, yeah. I said, I am not going down there. Why? Because these white folks got guns, because you can see it was a pretty cool day. They all had jackets on, but everyone that had a good jacket, but when they lift their arm up, you could see under there or a little above waistline, they was all packing. All them white folks was packing.
Actually, they interviewed that one police officer that they had a video of hanging out the window. Mm-hmm. Protesters were going out, and he said that during the interview, he said he feared for his life. And the interviewer asked him, well, why didn't you go for your gun? You feel for your life. And he said, I didn't pull it because I knew it would be a bloodbath. He said we pulled almost 2,000 guns that day.
Right.
This is what that cop has said.
Yeah.
He said, I didn't pull my gun because I started shooting. They just called me a bloodbath.
Hey man, the people was packing and they know it. Now, again, let's not say racism, but if 3 Negroes was down there talking about that, what they was doing, they would have shot them on the spot. They wouldn't have let them come up on it. They would have just mowed them down. There's a little black girl running around down there with a baby in the back, and they shot her right there. They just shot her. They shot her and killed her, finished. So I'm not saying that there's racial prejudice and all that, but I tell you, that incident also is the catalyst for the downfall of America. Oh, what do you mean? Okay, let's remember we were just talking about race. We was talking about numbers. Okay, if you look at old pictures, say 100 years ago back, black people was black. They just got here from Africa. Tar babies. That was it. Now, there's a few people down in Louisiana where they mixed up stuff like that. But most, maybe on every plantation, they might have had only 1 or 2, the old slave guy go back there and mess with the ladies. But after slavery, that slowed down because everybody was free. 76% up until the 1930s, their survey said 76% of black people were married. It was a higher percentage of black people being married than white people. Yeah, by 1970 and 80, it had turned from 70-something being married to 70-30. 30% of the people was married and 70% were unmarried in the black community. And it's been like that ever since. Okay, Why? Because coming out of slavery, we really, it's a great history just to think about. And all of our families that are old from back that time have whole histories of families going looking for each other for years. And when they found each other, it was just, in my family, as soon as one of my relatives found the sister, believe it or not, they died on the spot. They were so happy. They had reached their goal. My goal for the last night, that was 1930, 1910. So that was 45 years after slavery. And they saw each other, and one of them died on the spot. Because remember, you didn't have TVs, you didn't have this. Family was a big deal. Brothers and sisters was a big deal, and we had plenty of them, all right. Now, what we want to talk about today, not that we haven't been talking, but we have been talking about what we want to talk about. I want y'all to go back to Hubert Harrison. Remember I didn't bring it. Hubert Harrison. Hubert Harrison was from the islands. He worked with Marcus Garvey. He died early. He died in 1927, I think. Yeah. But Hubert Harrison was black, and he was pushing black consciousness. Okay, the talented tenth was not pushing that. But later on, you can see some of the talented tenth, they become super black nationalists, like Pan-Africanists. What was his name? W.E.B. Du Bois. Yeah. What's her name's wife was, I met his wife in Egypt because she was in exile there. And he was in Africa too, but he had probably just died when I was there. But anyway, hey, all of that black consciousness, they was calling Marcus Garvey a buffoon and a clown. And they was pushing integration, education, and poetry and all that stuff. That's what they was doing. You get a history book, and it's the Harlem Renaissance. Yeah. Celebrating books and things like, who was that boy? I tell you the book he wrote. Anyway. So Hubert Harrison. Now, extreme vision. We believe it has to be balanced, and at the time element, which we refer to in a way as sabr, by the gift of time, that patience and constancy, you have to have. Now, this is where we come in. You got to remember, go back and grab the history books. Out of all the history books and peoples, all of our people have quieted down. This is Pete O'Neill. This is a good brother. They got, says Brother Musa, enjoyed the tapes very, very much. Please send more by my mother. Your homeboy from the days of struggle, as Pete O'Neill from Kansas City. So it must be all right, because it says hook my mother up. Of course, this is old, because he's older than I am, and if his mother's still alive, good God Almighty. It's like another one of my friends, Fleeta Drungo. It was the Soledad brothers. Of course, we all know that later on, one of our brothers got killed out of the Soledad brothers. But Fleeta Drungo didn't. Fleeta Drungo is one of my friends. In fact, Fleeta Drungo of the Soledad brothers used to be my workout partner. It was him, myself, and B.B. Ivy. B.B. Ivy was in the penitentiary. He's one of these short guys that was super muscular. He was our trainer. You know what I mean? And we'd work out every night. And anyway, so in this freedom that we're looking for, they have something they call ETA, estimated time of arrival. If you was on the penitentiary bus or something, they'd be riding, they said you could sit up and you could hear, and they said, what's your ETA, estimated time of arrival? And they would tell you. And that means if you're driving any public bus, transport, police, anything, they ask you, well, what's your ETA? And they'll tell you 1 hour or so, your estimated time of arrival. So in science and engineering and technology, we're going through a very serious period right now. There is no estimated time of arrival. Some years ago, well, when we going to get freedom? Our ETA is maybe 10 years, 40 years, 50 years. It's not there, and it's going backwards. Going backwards because they're killing more black people, more people are dying. The poverty gap is expanding. Good God Almighty. I mean, expanding. Can you imagine today the gap between rich white folks and barely getting by Negroes is getting bigger, and Latinos have more money than we do. Yeah, I mean, it's not that they just got here or nothing. Well, they'll work. If you don't hire nobody, you're not going to get no job. You can't work where the people don't want you to work. Well, black people, to hire black people, it was too expensive. And I tell them, I said, when I came here, Latinos work cheap. So you can't do that no more. They cost the same amount as white workers. They know how much it costs, right? But now they've taken over all the jobs. There ain't no Negroes. You see a Negro working on a job, you'll say, boy, dig in or something like that. This is rare. Right, yeah. You say, hey, how did you survive that?
It's funny, that lot across the street on A Street, the guys, they working on it, doing some work, and they were getting cleared one day, and the guy was telling me how he had hired one of the neighborhood Negroes to help him. Mm-hmm. And the neighborhood Negro told him, yeah, I'll be right back. And he ain't never come back.
He don't come back because, look, we've been trained. Look, I'm telling you, down south, carpenters, all the ditch diggers, all that stuff, black people did. And so construction, it was okay. So when we went out west and what have you, and we went up north, we could get a job because America's growing. They needed that type of thing. Okay, but then when you begin to put white workers out of, these unions, not only the auto unions, they was against it. Now you got to imagine black people down south. In 1966, 65, what I remember in Mississippi, it was about $2 a day. That's what you made, $2 a day. In California, you made $3 an hour. Okay, now let's do a little math on the thinking. And I remember these facts from the newspaper. In 1959 and 1960, if you were a black woman with 10 children, if you came out to California, you could get $400 a month welfare. But if you worked, you couldn't make that money if all 10 of the children worked in Mississippi. Now, I want you to imagine, where are you going to go? If you're in America and somebody call you and say, oh, how you doing? How you can call me way down here? You call them at a neighbor's house or something. So, well, I'm up here in New York and we get $55 a week on unemployment. How much? Because in California, you got $55 a week too. This is in 1959. Here's what people would do. All at Del Monte and all of that, you could get a job at the canneries in the summer out there. And you could work all the overtime you want, because California is where all the fruits and vegetables come from. So that's where people would work, at canneries. It wasn't the highest paying job, but you could work a 12-hour shift if you wanted to, or even sometime they needed in a double shift. Okay, so they would build up what they used to call po' boy. Unemployment was called po' boy out there, you know. So you could make enough money, and it would be a big, juicy piece of money. So during the summer, you'd buy your car, your new car, whatever it was you wanted to buy, you would buy it then. And then your girlfriend could get on welfare. And you lived a comfortable life, because in the wintertime, when there ain't no fruits and vegetables, you're going to get $55 a week. When in those days, $100 a week was wonderful. Now, $100 a week meant the man getting $100 a week. He could take care of the whole family, because remember, especially white women, they didn't work in those days. Maybe 4 or 5 of them, 10% maximum. 20%, okay, 20% work. But that's it. One man could work. One white man could work. They could drive a new Chevrolet, buy a house, and they could live a middle-class life off one salary. Now, you tell me something. See if you can do that now. You can't make it now if your wife is working 2 jobs and you're working 2 jobs and trying to sneak in overtime, or because they say, well, if you don't work 30 hours a week, I don't have to pay you whatever it is, health care or something. Yeah, they do. They got dirty stuff, so they said 30 hours, that's it. They said, man, why don't you let me, sorry, I get so-and-so, he ain't working but 20 hours this week. We put him. They are dirty, dirty, dirty. Okay, let's kind of keep up a little bit. So, why are we here? What's the whole idea about this? One more mountain to climb, one more river to cross. Here's where we are. We have been doing this now for well over 40 years. And we work at the pace that we want. For the last several years, we've been on cruise, not pause, but on cruise, because we've been under serious attack by Boss Man. Boss Man done worked on us. He done hooked us up. I mean, he ain't been playing. It ain't like that he been playing around. Boss Man been out to finish off the brother. Here's a deed to our property in Oakland, but on the other side, you'll see where Mukhtar and Khadijah came. Imam Abdul-Anim Musa kidnapped by the OPD, the FBI, NSA. Mukhtar Khadijah led a charge against Imam Musa. They led the charge. They came in the masjid and had me put in jail, although the deed, even now, I have a case in court now, but I still have the deed with my name on it. I beat a case in court I was found not guilty. What was that? 2000, 19, yeah, with for trespassing. Next time I went out there, I went back to jail in the same place. I still had that case right now. I still had a case right now. I still had the arrest records. I have all of that. What I'm trying to tell you is this. They have, here's one of the last arrests. Look at this. You could tell. I was taking a shower. Technically, I was taking the enema, you know. Here's Mukhtar right here, the police. Here's all the police. You don't see no black police because the black police, they don't put them on me. They put everybody else. It just so happened these are Latino brothers, and they're more happy to have a job. But they sergeant that's Latino, he talks real good English with me. But when it was time to call him to have this put aside, he didn't know nothing. But then the next week he knows everything because he came out there to Santa Rita to interview me, to visit with me. And I think that we'll probably call him for jury duty. Yeah, he got 2-3 hours.
I didn't know he did that. I didn't know.
No, the guy came out and
This is why you were incarcerated?
yeah, okay. When I was incarcerated, out of 4 times, I would go in and go over to this cell on this corner, and I'd wait there for about 3 hours, and they'd let me go. But on one of these occasions, Khadijah said that I had assaulted her or that I had a machete. Yeah. Okay. I went to court for that. When I called you and I told you Khadijah and them was behind me in the car. Now, they can get behind me, but if I got behind them, they could file a charge on me for anything they want. But that's the way they do it. You're trying to heat up just a pinch. So anyway, I still have that charge. But what I'm going to do is I'm my own lawyer, of course. I'm going to deal with all of this stuff because I got enough stuff from the first trial to win any case that I get. But a second one see, here's the way court works. We get him and Khadijah and other people in there to make statements, you know. And they've already made the first statement, so I already know the lies they've been caught in. So I ask those questions, and then they have to repeat that question. That answer, they're gonna lie, most likely. So I have now the same thing, and it's all on. I get all the paperwork. You know what I mean? I order it from the court clerk. Okay. So I have all of that now, and I make copies of it, so it's all over the place. So they come in and snatch this. I don't know if you remember when I took one of those cartons. Yeah, that's right. I had 3 different sections of all of what has happened. When I got arrested on one of the times, they gave that carton to Mukhtar. Well, it says that they gave it to him. They said he said that was his, and that it had paperwork for the masjid, and it didn't have my name on it. That's a big lie. But no problem. Okay. Later on, the little carrying case that I had, the green one, they took that too. And then when I filed to get the report on that, they said, well, you waited past 30 days, so you was destroyed. They ain't destroyed nothing. They got that boy now. And then they go all over trying to, wherever I was living, okay, I leave 2 or 3 copies of everything there. So they find 2 of them and throw them away, or they keep them. I'm going to file papers for the Clarence Reeves room, you know, where all the stuff they've taken from me. They've taken archery equipment, Like I had one of my favorite bowls was from 1969. They don't even make them anymore. So a plastic recurve bowl, 65-pound bowl. You know, I used to teach the kid archery out here. I didn't know that I was going to become a Muslim, and the favorite sport of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right, was running and archery. So I do both of them. So anyway, let me speed up. So right here, they got the brother. They have barefooted, and it's unbelievable. This guy, Mukhtar, I'll tell you about him later. Now, we overlook, and let's call it forgive. We forgive everything he's done, including what his wife has done, and she, poor girl, calls me every other day. No, not every other day. I don't know how many times a day. But we forgive him. That's the point, one of the points we had to get to. We've been here a long time psychologically, but we wanted it, everything had to come together. What the government is trying to do to the black community, and it all adds up. The black youth have no idea about these people of the past. They're a figment of history. Way back. Pete O'Neill is still alive. Sekou Odinga, I have his picture, but I don't have it with me. Sekou Odinga is still alive. Okay, they were in Algeria with me, and they know when all the stuff I've said, they know that's true. And about them, Sekou did 33 years in the penitentiary. And he has something on him that you can't associate with. Yeah, the state of New York is like that. Yeah. So some kind of way they let him out. And I was going to do a program, had an Iranian guy, they was going to put something down for people in Iran to see. He was saying, man, what is this about? You know, I got certain, I said, enough said, I got it. You know, I got it. That if you show up on TV over there and they get a copy, then they going to say you have done this, that, and other. He was in the penitentiary for 30 years, 33 years. I wouldn't be in a hurry to get back either. You know what I mean? And then when you get a little bit older, you say, man, I ain't got time to do. Let's forget about black people leaving you alone in that prison, you know, for all that time. They don't come to see you. They don't bring you no food. They don't do nothing. They don't even remember. The ones that you knew forgot about you. So you know the ones that don't know about you, they don't have nothing to remember. Anyway, so out of the two people that I know real good in that movement, most of them passed away. I saw, in fact, this in here. This is Pete and Charlotte. This is an old Black Panther. All of these, half of these people, International Solidarity, Pan-African, Okay. Most of these people have died. All the people, Connie Masterson, I think, died. Eldridge died. In fact, yeah. DC might still be alive. DC from San Francisco. Connie Masterson. Kathleen, probably still alive. Setaway. We used to discuss a lot of times because I had the idea that drug dealers were going to help reform America. And he used to argue with me. He wrote a book called Dope Plus Capitalism or something. And a dope dealer is a perfect capitalist. What he was saying about me was true. And I was saying, no, man, that's going to be the savior. I was thinking, you know, out of the, I don't say mistakes, there's only one historical mistake analysis that I remember making, and it was that one. Well, I thought, yeah, his moral tribute. These are to a lot of people that was over there. Yeah, Setaway, Michael Tabor. These people are all dead. But look, Connie, she's dead. Field Marshal D.C., he might be alive. He might still be alive. He was from San Francisco. But all these people are forgotten. They're just forgotten. Okay, now me, Pete did a good job. He's opened a school over there. That was 30 years ago. No. 40-something years ago. A long time ago. For African kids. He's done a good job. Now, when I used to go different places, I'd always leave something behind, after all, I'm Big Hank and, stuff like that. So even my friends today that got out of the pen, I couldn't leave them what I like to, but I would leave them with something, you know what I mean? It would help a little bit. So we're out to get, while a few of us are still alive, I have to get the picture out to the public, to the young people. What all of that was and what all of what they're doing to you right now. I don't care what I can show you, you'll never find my picture in anything from those days. Or even up to the modern, if I don't have the picture myself, you're not going to find it anywhere. Because somebody knows, let's say it like it is, everybody knows that nobody wants to publicize or nobody wants to hear anything from Abdul Aleem Musa. Not the press. They're definitely not going to do it. When I got all this stuff out there at the Oakland Tribune, I went down to the Oakland Tribune and I showed them the pictures, and you never saw none of this stuff in the newspaper. You just didn't see it. They wouldn't print it. When I went to the biggest Negro legal team out there, and I told them I showed them all the pictures and everything I showed them all of these. This is the real reason that all of this is happening. Because I'm black and I'm showing up in the newspaper and I'm only the only Negro in history that have a picture with the rock bar that you can see. That's the Palestinian movement over there. And he grinning, I'm grinning, everybody grinning. Now Khadijah says that I'm grinning at them. Well, they're grinning at me, look, right? So what I'm supposed to do? Get mad at them for grinning at me? Right? No, we just grin right back. You could tell from some of the old lectures what Dr. Kaleem Siddiqui had said about me. All of a sudden, mum's the word from South Africa. Mum's the word. All of a sudden, they want to print Quranic tafsir by so-and-so that don't say a whole lot of nothing. And no more Imam Musa. Hey, when they found out I was coming to South Africa, they called me and said, would you come over and raise some funds for us? In other words, instead of raising some for yourself, it's a good project. They want to raise, and they know I was involved in, we want to raise funds for the drug treatment program, and we'll send you all around the country, which they did. I said, sure, I'll raise some funds later on. So they know what they're doing. Okay. Triangle of Terror. Even the white folks are saying it now. USA, Zionist State of Israel, and Saudi Kingdom. I'm not going to go through all that. I'm going to finally go through what we want to do right here. Okay. accelerate future shock. And I have in parentheses, disposal society. Does anybody remember the book Future Shock from 1970? Alvin Toffler. Yeah, look, just put to see this, Alvin Toffler, Future Shock. It's a book, I think it came out in 1970. It has things like disposable society, all the stuff that people do now. Yeah, the things that people do now, they had all of that in the book, that this is the future of the world. Okay.
Some of the notes, I was like, yeah, he had some good predictions.
Yeah. No, I read that book. The reason I read the book is because, think about it, the stuff we talk about here is always accurate. I mean, it's unbelievably accurate. So I didn't just study the Quran and Hadith, but I also studied their predictions. That's what future shock is about, that, hey, you look up and you're going to be shocked. We're going to be there in a hurry. And right now, the things that it talked about then, that was 50 years ago. When does it say? 1970 when it came out?
Yeah.
60.
70s publication date.
Yeah, 1970. Okay, now I was overseas when I read that. So I made a lot of the plans of what I was going to do in the future based on those realistic predictions. Yeah, that's kind of true. So if that's true, then 1, 2, 3, 4 is true. If that's true, it don't have nothing to do with black people, but it has something to do with evolution. And if society is right here, right, I have to make a prediction, where will black people be at that particular time? It's just associating. If future shock is correct, if it's 80% correct, which it is, then I could make a prediction about black people, although it's not about them, but I could be 70% accurate. I could be 80, I could even be 90% accurate if I know my people enough. You know, I can be way up there. Those are the things when I was in exile that I was studying. I was studying all that. I was studying protracted war. You know, all of that stuff I was studying. I mean, I was studying those things. And then when I came back and got busy, okay, you have to be halfway right, because you done pulled back and you done looked at the whole thing. That's why when we would see things about Hubert Harrison, and I want everybody to get a new copy of that from the printout. And you could print me 1 or 2 of them out too, so it'll be a fresh print, because I'm going to use that. Hubert Harrison. If we saw that the white man and the Negro did this stuff to the most accurate black man of that time, right? Then what are they going to do to the Muslims or Imam Musa, that's the accuratest Negro in the United States during his time? He's going to do the same thing that they did. Cut him off from this, cut him off from that, cut him off from that. Now the thing about this poor guy, he passed away in 1927 or 28. One of those. What about me? I'm still here. And shoot, I might live another 20, 30 years. I got a plan to live to 2,000, 3,000, whatever it is, 30 years from now. Now, if I don't make it, I'll still have if I leave here this afternoon, tonight or tomorrow, you'll still see a big smile on my face. And I was happy to be here. And I was happy to become a Muslim and to do some of the things. You know what I mean? Like people think, oh, we done blocked you on everything. This house is falling down. that's falling out. You're still paying taxes, all that. Yeah, but I'm happy and I'm alive, right? You gotta remember, I'm alive, and we'll fix that. That's one of the things about this tape. I'll take this DVD around, and I'm going to visit the universities and the BCUs, whatever they call them. Yeah, right. I'm going to visit them. First, I'll just go around and pass them out at different meetings, and I'll tell them, give me a call. Somebody's going to call. They might put me on a 3-day circuit, a class on special, because and the package I'm going to give them, it'll have some DVDs, but it'll have all of this visible history where they can, yeah, that's real. Why we don't know, I ain't never heard of no Imam Musa. That's right, you ain't never heard of no Imam Musa, right? You never heard of Hubert Harrison either, have you? Who? Well, he was almost big as Garvey. Why you ain't never heard of him? Can you imagine? You remember in the movie 10 Commandments when Moses did all that good stuff and now he getting thrown out of Egypt, and they say, strike Moses' name from everything in Egypt. And they said, so it shall be spoken, so it shall be done. In other words, ain't nobody gonna know nothing about Musa after a while. And the people that didn't know him, once they're all dead, since his name is not written, nobody will know nothing about it. That's one of the reasons that we're bringing up a modern history of the liberation movement of the 60s. Because out of the different sides, we're the only one that's alive that was part of that third rail. Nobody else was supporting the black movement from the black community like we was, right? Nobody else was right there on the scene in Oakland. Nobody else was changing and involved with the environment. In Oakland, we was as well known as the Black Panther Party, and they had stuff all over the news all the time. But they didn't talk, they talked about us, Big Hank now, more, because we had a big, I'm telling you. All right. And all the pictures I got of Johnny Gunn and them people, I'll have to get new pictures. They were all, they all disappeared. A lot of these pictures that I have to keep some of the ones that was kind of messed up like this. Why? Because disappeared. You know, they're trying to cut your record down. And I know that's what they kind of do. So I make tons of records, and I got them everywhere. They ain't even close to obliterating. You know what I mean? Because I knew that's what they do. They try to scrub the record clean. You know what I mean? And it haven't worked. Anyway, let me speed up. Color of black people, slavery. I was talking about the color of black people during slavery. Now, I'm going to jump. What's the color of black people now? Did you ever watch the news? What's the color of the news people? What's the color of the people at the university? What's the color? Are black people the same old dark? I mean, I would be light-skinned compared to the people doing slavery. Whatever happened to them? Well, it's been a mixture. And as I think the mixture of young people, say that's 20 years old or 18 or 20 years old, it looks like that they're half white, all of them.
Yeah. Now I think about my college experience. Yeah, a lot of people just light skinned, like
They're light.
a lot of yellow people.
And you're almost 30, right? 27, 28.
27 now.
Yeah, okay. And you was in school let's say 5 years ago, let's just say 5 years ago, the kids then was all salt and pepper, look, they was all blended up then. Imagine them 2 cycles from now trying to have a race war. With who? With who? You say, I can't, that's my cousin. He's too light. Or, oh, he was a darky, but he just slipped through. Everybody else, who you gonna get? Who's white folks gonna get to fight against black people? Don't forget, number 2 in America is Latinos. Imagine when we get our sense back and start having unity with them. I mean, real unity. We're still little psychological harmony, stuff like that. But there's a lot of slow Negroes, and they blame a lot of immigrants, Mexican and others, for jobs and stuff.
I've heard some of these slow Negroes.
They say it. They call them Julios. They call them names. And when I talk with people in Spanish, they're shocked. What? You like us? Of course. I don't. It's not I like you and all that. But they say if you speak a little bit of the language, you had to like us, like somebody like me, to teach you that, right? And so, remember during the 60s, they had brown berets, they had Puerto Rican movement up there in New York, young lords. They had young lords. They was all big, and half of them had 25% black people helping them learn how to be rebellious. You know what I mean? So, Rainbow Coalition, why that one to Jesse Jackson, he never met no Rainbow Coalition. He met just a few a few progressive whites that he could suck in, and a few non-remembering blacks that they could get working together to do what? What did he do? Nothing. And they killed all the blacks from that day and put the rest in jail. Okay, so let me speed up. Race war I have impossible in 2 generations. You can see them trying to hook one up right now. Yeah. All that white folks carrying the Confederate flag and trying to get them ones that went down there. Look, that's all foolish propaganda. It ain't nothing. And it's too late for it. It could work, a little bit of it could work now. But in 1 generation, that won't be able to work. But I say for sure, 2 generations from now, finished. It ain't gonna work. Number 1, white people will be too deluded. And all the Negroes from Oakland, Berkeley, New York, everybody is not working in a black community, and everybody is not working in a white community. All the working people are working together. And the only place you see a solid block of people is the Spanish-speaking people. When you see them now, they're a solid block. They're the only solid block of people who are working. So they might reproduce pretty heavy amongst themselves for another generation or so. But pretty soon, that's going to break down, just like the Puerto Rican and the black and the other community did. Yeah. Okay. What we're saying is we have to teach the people about these generations. Okay. So historical tilt. I have a little historical tilt here in our direction. The historical tilt, now let's say is straight up, but it's tilted in our direction. The historical tilt. People are finding out about, in the media and everywhere else, about Zionists. They're just finding out. And they're trying to pretend that racial tension is big and heavy. But racial tension in America is not that thick like they're trying to play it on TV.
No, it's not.
It's not that thick. Everybody, that was a time when black music was black music and white music was white music. There wasn't no crossover. My kids listen to everything now, right now. They listen to all of them. I said, those are white folks. Well, it's okay. Because they don't care. They don't, in fact, my family, my kids, and they're the newish generation. One is 18 or 19, the other one is 23 or something. Maybe even 24. But they say, Dad, you got to stop, you sound racist. You know, like the way I talk, and it's not new me, it's all the people on the radio talk about how their grandparents talk. They said, my grandparents sound like racists. They calling people greasers, and then they calling them niggers, you know. And I said, well, what do you want me to, because I say white folks this, and I don't say, maybe even peckerwoods every now and then. I said, well, what do you want me to call them if I don't call them white folks? Because they don't say white folks. They say, so I don't know what they say. But they don't make that same distinction. And if you watch them watching TV, they'll watch mixtures of, say, y'all watch white folks? Sure, what the heck? To them, it's no big deal. So one more generation, they couldn't produce a race war, even this generation. I don't think they could. Remember the demonstrations we went to? Right, yeah. Black Lives Matter? Yeah. If we got 25% of them, you couldn't produce a race war. Of course, what was it? 85% white kids? Pretty much. 80? 75? The blackest one I seen had 60% Negroes. That's the blackest one out of all of them. And that was a personal one, just walking around and saying, oh, over in the southeast somewhere. It wasn't nowhere. If white folks could get there, they was there. So they're talking about a future race war, and that ain't gonna fly. It ain't gonna fly if all the white folks' kids just come out and said, hey, we're with you, which they would. Then there would be 5 Negroes over there with these crackers, these peckerwoods, you know. And the kids, you said, your injustice system is this, that, and another. They said, that's what we was out here with you about. Killing you. They're not killing us. We're out here because Black Lives Matter. Everybody know white lives matter. But we are, you know what I mean? All of their mathematics is not going to work anymore. Their mathematics technically is dead now, but I put down here 2 generations from now. I'm using 20 years, I'm using 40 years from now. By that time, you'll have to have a test to see whether you're white or black, I believe. You know, they're gonna, yeah, you're gonna have to measure niggas' nose and lips, all them, that's white lips, they ain't gonna work. But I'm black, I say, you know, just also, I don't know, you wouldn't remember those programs like Oprah from the 80s and 90s, where they had white people, you know, when you look at them, those are black people. And they was black, with black, no, I'm black. And I sit down here listening to these crackers talking about da-da-da-da-da, and I don't say nothing. I just suck it in. These is white people that are classified. They can't convince nobody that they black. This is from 20 years ago. So you know how it is now. And when I would look at them, I said, those are white people. But you know the octoroon, if you only have 1/8 black, You know what I mean? You know you black because your mama was black, or all your relatives over there, they all black. So you just, I'm black, you know. But when you go amongst white folks, they don't say, hey, they don't know you black till you have a big party and everybody there, half the people as Negroes, and then they say, how did these people get here? Well, I invited them, that's my cousin. Then they know, you know. But there's a group of white people, and I'm looking at, I said, I would never, never, never. And they have to listen to that stuff in the office about them niggas, they smell, they this, that, and other. And they sitting there, they don't say nothing. They might say, yeah, them niggas, look at them niggas over there. Chimpanzees and monkeys, they black. They call themselves black. When they go home into a black environment. Okay, so the point is, we're making this decision to go public in this stage because for several reasons. Number one, this stage is passing. We don't have no guarantee about tomorrow. And so this portion of history have to be categorized by us, the ones that participated in it, because nobody else knows it. You see, nobody else knows it. So maybe in 10 years, wouldn't nobody know but me. And then who's going to believe? So we're doing this right now. This is our next phase. This is our next phase right now, to unify the idea of the black liberation movement and the whole human movement. You see what I mean? The same stuff we've been talking about, let's see, for years. During this period of global evolution, we are reaching out to all peoples of goodwill who wish to participate in the effort of global redesign. Toward achieving this ultimate vision, we are working diligently to reform even those who have worked and cooperated with Zionists. That's the other Negroes we talk about. Okay, you got to remember, this is 2011. That's 2011. That's 10 years ago, right? Yeah, that's already, this, which is modern and up to date, is 10 years ago. So you can see how, when we talk about protracted struggle, we can sit still for a decade without, without getting the, well, we can do it. We have done it. This, what we're moving into, technically we've been into this cycle. Toward achieving this ultimate vision, we are working diligently to reform even those who worked and cooperated with Zionist American organizations as saboteurs, agent provocateurs, infiltrators, and traitors. This includes misguided believers who have snitched on their own brothers and sisters. Up here, together we must develop a plan of action and work with missionary zeal to bring about and play a part in a role in the earth liberation movement, which aims to free the earth from the parasitical behavior of man, establish a non-predatory system of interconnected global harmony, nurture and further a culture of earth first custodianship, like even in the Bible they talk about more when they talk about man, instead of man being dominion over the fowl of the air, the fish of the sea, and everything that crawls it. It talks about stewardship now. Okay. Earth first custodianship. Understand and respect the rights of the earth, which should be treated as a living organism, which finally people woke up. I remember white folks had a program on the National Public Radio. Do you know that the earth is a living organism? I said, boy, that guy is fast. You know, that it's alive. You know what I mean? that the earth is alive. It's living, breathing, sucking in oxygen, sprinkling stuff up, and it's alive. And that brilliant cracker, anyway, for somebody in whatever that was, 15 years ago, 20, to finally realize that the earth is alive is insanity. If you put a seed in it, if it was dead, nothing could grow out. It has to be alive to produce, anyway. All right, so. Treated as a living organism, which it is, and envision and actualize global redesign for the 21st century. Okay, this is when we walk in the door. We've been doing this all along. Ever since you've been here, we've been working on this type of project. But now we're focused on it. We're moving on it. We're not all of that, what's the Negro stuff that they did in the past, it's not on our calendar. It's not on our calendar. Mukhtar and Khadijah are not on our calendar. We will go back to Oakland and straighten all that out when we get ready. Before we even get back there, except maybe I'll jump back and pay some taxes right quick. But this stuff is important right now to travel the United States. This is going to be, actually for me, a lot of fun too, because that's what I'm going to travel the United States and enlighten. First, the ones to be enlightened is the ones that they try to assassinate the first with that black stuff they putting on. That's to kill them first. That's to kill them first. And it's doing a good job. Why? Because everybody, the only one that they talk about that is helpful is Chairman Fred, his son. Remember, his wife was pregnant. Right, yeah. When now Chairman Fred, we done spoke on programs together. He's on the money. He's on the money, and this is his subject, is his father's legacy and what they're supposed to do. But anyway, let me speed up a little bit and see. Historical tilt. Normalize the vision and normalize the dream. We have a picture, we have a vision, we have a dream. We have to normalize that dream. Part of that normalization of a dream means that we visualize the earth as a clean, healthy, wholesome earth, right? And the people playing their part in making it that way. We're not going to go over the sellouts, the Rainbow Coalition from those days, Jesse Jackson. We're not going to spend any time talking about the bad guys and the people that cheated them. We're going to spend our time just give them the vision. If you give them the vision of what a good world looks like, you don't have to tell them what a bad world looks like. You know what I mean? You don't have to waste any time on that. This is the one, and is this the one y'all want to see? Yes. But we'd like to see a little extra here, there, another. Fine. That's the vision. That's our job. That's a wonderful job. Remember, nobody else is thinking about it. Nobody else is doing it that way. And the other thing is, nobody else has that credibility. There's no white folks that have that credibility. There's no black folks that have had the ability, 95% of ability is stickability, to stick with all of these depressing programs. They would have depressed the most optimistic person in history. This stuff right here. That you have to do something for 20 years and the Negro they teach a Negro to turn one little switch and it turns that all out. You have to be very, very optimistic and courageous to do that. You got to be you can't, you have to be, I don't want to say created for that, but evolved for that. You was created by Allah, but your whole life had to been leaning in that direction, and it had to be evolved and perfected. Yeah. So that was a mission. Now, you got to remember, How beautiful that is when you know, okay, it looks like that's what I'm supposed to do, and I'm happy to do it. That in itself is great. Let me see. Institutional structure, check out families, da 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 da. Okay. I would like to talk about the curly-headed crew, but I'm not going to talk about them, except to mention the curly-headed crew is totally exposed. If you take one of the members of the curly-headed crew who was down in Houston, well, I'll call him Hashim Alauddin. He's the same person that Malcolm had, when I say Malcolm, I mean the young Malcolm. Malcolm Shabazz had allegiance to him. And Hashim Alauddin is a professor now at UC Berkeley. He should have his PhD by now. But he was teaching last class, he was teaching on Malcolm. And the last program I attended with them was a Malcolm X program in February, maybe let's say 5 years ago, something like that. One thing he did say, and didn't nobody hear him, he said that this guy here is the only one that's anywhere close to Malcolm X, talking about me. But we're not close to Malcolm X, we've passed Malcolm X. You got to remember, if they ran the 100-yard dash at a certain speed, right, for us to have any validity at all, we got to be several points above that because records increase. Okay, so whether it was King, whether it was Malcolm, all of those people, and now this protracted struggle means longevity. Remember King's last speech? Longevity has its place. That's what he said. Longevity, a long life has its place. But he can tell you right now, you can see in his eyes, I may not get there with you. In other words, somebody had already called him and said, nigga, you're not getting out of here. You're not even going to leave this town. And some calls you get, you know that's the right one, and that's it. It's like sometime when you have a little attack or a heart attack or something, you know, whew, if this is not the one, it's close to it. You know, so if you get through it, you change all your habits, your diet, because that one, hold it. No. It wasn't like before. This is it. The message got through. Okay, whoever had called King, that message had got through. You could tell that night in Memphis. I may not get there with you, but our people will make it to the promised land. He was using the old time Negro stuff, the promised land. The Negro haven't made it yet. Things are physically better here and there, but that's over 50 years ago. Okay, now, the curly-headed crew, the phony Shias like Hashim, phony Shias like Zakiya. Remember I was giving a talk and I said, all that lady has to do is just give me a call and da-da-da-da-da. What happened the next minute? Ring, 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 ring. Do you remember that? Or do you?
Yeah, I remember. Actually, I think that you called him.
She called, yeah. Was
it during class?
During the class. Yeah, she called during the class.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, she called during the class, just like when I want to make, what's the name, them mad, I'll say something about them, and I'll have my phone with me because I'm going to do that. And what did I call, not the dummy? The crackpot line is now open, and the crackpot's called. Okay, So this is not, I done already proved myself on psychological abilities to manage and manipulate. And I go toe to toe with boss man. It ain't no like, you're gonna lose this one, big boy. You can go on throw. In fact, the thing is on a different plane now. Like in boxing, we're hitting him more than he's hitting us. He's got everything. He's got Negroes, he's got white folks, man, he's got gadgets, he's got all that. But we hitting him more than he's hitting us, and he's got everything. That's a signal. That's why this is a part of a signal. You do that this is time. We are now prepared to help our people come to where it's helpful for them to be. Yeah. And they'll understand why they're here. That's what timing is. Timing is, you could be too early, you could be too late. I think this is the right time. So, I was in a class, it was 3 young ladies. They're much older now, but they was junior high school age. And they was part of the Imam Musa fan club. So, I could talk to them, do anything, and they would, whenever I come to town, I would like, well, I'll tell you down in Dixie, let's say Texas. So I was telling them about what Hashim was doing. They said, it's more than that, Imam Musa. Hashim tells the students to hate his parents and all. If any of the parents knew, he's saying the parents is all old-timey, they out of date, they're afraid. That's what he was telling the children in Al-Ghazali school. And he was telling a story, like if you were thinking the black days, he was the black messiah. But I was sitting there, I got so mad because we had all the people in our masjid, it was a whole crew of UC Berkeley students, girls, that wanted to marry him. He had a Japanese daddy, so he had curly hair. His mama was a Negro. He had a nice brown skin. If you look at him, you would say that's a nice looking guy. But he said, and this was with all the black sisters sitting right around, he said, you couldn't melt a black woman. Because imagine all them girls, 20 years old, talking to me, Imam Musa. And I was getting ready to say, well, if you don't want to marry him, you could marry Imam Musa anytime you want. I didn't really say that. I wasn't really thinking that, but I could have thought that if I wanted to, and they getting turned down, one after another. UC Berkeley students. That's some good school, UC Berkeley, for white folks. And we had a meeting in our masjid, sisters and brothers. They're supposed to be black conscious. And he said out of his mouth, you couldn't melt a black woman and pour her on me. That's all them girls that wanted to marry him. You couldn't melt one of them niggas. Melt her down like butter and pour her on top of me. In truth, every woman he had an Iranian wife, then I think he got another one now. He just not into black women. And he was down there talking about all of my friends in the black movement like he was there. I couldn't take it no more. That's when I started telling people, that guy there is the police. That nigga is the police. That's when I started. Now, I knew it all the time because he was part of the curly-headed crew. And the only one that I had to isolate to find out exactly whether she was in the curly-headed, whether she was a police or not, was them last phone calls. Those last phone calls proved to me that she was knowingly a part of that crew. Yeah, she was knowingly a part of the crew. Because how she dealt with me. But she had dealt with me like that all along. Nice, good-looking young lady, white mama, black daddy, a tar baby daddy. Good God Almighty! I said that daddy must have been, and he was. He was the darkest Negro in world history. You know, but what they call good hair and all that. So I was just saying, according to the situation, and I said, no, it's the same woman that told Abdul Malik, I would like to go to Imam Musa and tell him that I want to marry him. Now, her mama was hitting on me. She's pure white. And I said, no, I ain't messing around. So I didn't want to even mix up mama and daughter, so I said, I ain't gonna. So anyway, so Abdul Malik, cause he's got an American, well, he went to school, so you know what he liked, and he's curly-headed himself. So he loved people like that. And he told her, because she told me what he said, and so did everybody else. Imam Musa wouldn't want to marry you. Oh, here's what he told her. Because you was too loose up there at Berkeley. Loose was, where a black woman wants acceptance? Although she was beautiful, she still was kind of loose with. Now me, I come out of the fast world. I say, you like to give up vagina? That's fine. That makes it better for everybody. I don't care nothing about what, you know what I mean? We just didn't care about that type of thing. But he brought it up. That's right, it was Jahiliyyah. He brought it up. Okay, now the guy that she did marry, he's curly-headed crew too. I called him and said, do you have so-and-so's number? And we talked. He said, yeah, I had told my son, because they had a son, or they was talking about marriage and this, and he told her, he said, Imam Musa would be a good such and such for you. His thinking was because he would make a good father image for his son. This is the way he's thinking. Remember, he's a daddy, so he's still thinking. Yeah, he's thinking, hey, he would be a perfect, because he knew how I was, Hey, man, that'd be perfect. And we talked about all of that. But I did a few things, and I said, she's with them. And I gave her at least 5, you could probably tell, several opportunities to say and do, even by hint, but I didn't get it. So it's a possibility that I'm wrong. It's at least 4 or 5% possibility that I'm wrong. But I do think I was right, unless I got a call and said, you're absolutely wrong, I can prove it, Then I'd say, okay, let's get busy. But, it would take some convincing, That was the environment that we passed through. I wouldn't marry a nigger woman if you melted her and poured her on top of me. How could a nigger be that anti?
You said his mama was black.
His mama was black, yeah. But no, you got to remember, he's when you got that perfect woman look. I was at his house when the Iranian he married. You could tell the look he wanted by who he was. And I haven't seen the new one, but his father was Japanese, so he looked light brown skin with wavy hair. The perfect look for African American. Nice young lady. And them students that was coming to the masjid, our masjid, and Imam, and I'm delivering the message to him, And I almost want to tell them, you'll do a whole lot better by marrying somebody else. That is a nigger. That is a nigger of the lowest quality, the lowest character. And then to make it worse, he was teaching a black history in the class down in Houston. Yeah, and he was telling the people, you think that he was the head of the black nationalist movement. And so them young girls told me, because I told them, I said, y'all got to watch the way Hashim is teaching. He's teaching, because this is part of the Imam Musa fan club. Now, when I saw them years later, and they at the University of, I'm not going to say so-and-so, and sticking all out in perfect proportions, I said, those days are over. I said, and we all knew it. We all knew it that, but they was my little fan club. It was 3 Indian, and by the time they hit university, we was really, the little fan club was when they was in junior high school. But a few years later, for a girl from junior high school that's a serious period. So, and I can see too, I said, no. Y'all can't jump up and hug me no more and all of that. Those days are past. But they were a source of direct information. Because when I told them, y'all got to watch what Hashim is doing. Hashim is funny. They said, Hashim, that ain't nothing. What Hashim is teaching us, that everything our parents are saying, don't do it. Don't believe it. He calls our parents cowardly and all that. I said, okay. He lucky they don't know nothing about it. You know what I mean? But anyway, so Howard, Baltimore, and all that, we're going to be running through them. International structure, check our formula. Yeah. We're going to be reviving and dealing with our former, Zakia, curly-headed crew. Yeah, we mentioned a little bit about that. Hashim, big-time Shia. And that's the other thing is, when he'd come to our masjid in the early days, he would pray like he's a Sunni. Then finally he started praying like a Shia. And when I'd go to programs, he would have the flag with Imam Hussein on it. And the way he was carrying on, I said, that is the police. Imam Hussein, I said, So these people that I picked out decades ago, they've always come, every last one of them have came out to be whoever I picked them out to be. When I said Marcia Hashimi in 1982 was the police, she was the police. Because all they would say last year, year before last, Hashimi, Marcia Hashimi. And I done got busted in the head, and they all know it. It was right after. It was during that time. It was during that. It happened. They started hollering that while I was, hey, man. No, this stuff, the beauty of longevity, and I'm going to close. Longevity is beautiful, man. But to have the patience to do it, I thank Allah for all of that. I thank Allah over and over again, for that whole thing, for that whole system, and for that whole process of being around everybody. There's white folks that Sadie Hawkins today, hippies, they dancing and carrying on. Here's other white folks right there. There ain't too many Negroes had that experience. White folks, Mexicans, Colombians, everybody being in all those countries, Africa, and all over Africa, not one spot. And then later on in Asia, Japan, and everywhere else. That was for a reason. So that a Negro would be able to pick up on the characteristics and not be spoiled and not be afraid. Because I'm sorry to say, I think that's what happened to a lot of our folks. But I'm not with them. I'm not against them if they got scared, a boss man. Because boss man, he can technically scare you. It's not an illusion. If he didn't scare everybody, it's not an illusion. He didn't scare the people. And the people wholeheartedly say, okay, that's it, that's fine, no problem with me. I am not demanding. That's one of the first rules of rebellion. Do not force people to do things that they're not evolved to do. If they're not ready to make revolution, don't threaten them and make no revolution. Because soon, boss man gonna figure it out. Or boss man's men or women gonna figure it out. So in closing, dear believers, let me say this. We're gonna be on the road very soon. We're gonna try to update y'all on the movement as it exists today within the historical context. And the first or two cycles around the United States, and we'll start sending out stuff, and we're starting on that right now. So soon as this pandemic, whatever it is over, we're going to be doing that. If this pandemic continues past a month and a half or two, where it's not safe to visit students, we're going to visit the universities anyway and pass out these flyers. Not flyers, but CDs. All the one you're watching now, we're going to pass out singles, all of those, and we're going to pass out hundreds of different singles. But whoever's headed the BSU, actually, whatever they call it, we're going to give them one with 8 on it so they can see, they can see this is the historical context. We're going to do that to make our people aware of the time they're living in. It don't look like people is up on it. And definitely they've lost some of the historical context. And wherever they come in, I see our people are behind. They're behind. They're not up on, they're not, and the people that are anywhere close to up on it is the police. I don't find, I'm sorry. You can say that man is paranoid. Well, if you think that because I say most of our leaders are the police, I'll say, well, why ain't nothing happened? When Malcolm was alive, stuff happened. When King was alive, stuff was happening. What happened now? They've been gone all 60-something, 50 years, and ain't nothing happened? So the people that's leading you something, right? It just makes Negro sense. It don't have to make, something is wrong. And like the Quran said, the shaitan says this in the Quran, I'm your sincere advisor, so I shouldn't even say that. But I am. You can go over the record and see what Negroes and say it and add up what's happening in life. And it's an honor, it's a privilege to be a part of bringing you this information. And we're not going to be, we're leaving, and I'll close with this, the negativity. We're not going to be talking about Abdul Malik, them did this. We're not going to be talking about Mukhtar and Khadijah, they did that. We're not going to be talking about the brothers here and the sisters here, which the brothers and sisters here are just like the ones that are out there. This place have been what it is, and the people have been what they are since they got here. So that's okay. But we have hope in Allah. Number one, we're going to give out the message. If it helps, that's fine. If it don't, we've done our part. The other part never close the door on the human being to not making progress, but to participate in self-healing and, clarification of history and events. So we have a whole lot of optimism. The last thing, if we were to become pessimistic because of the environment, we would be betraying a trust from Allah, because Allah done gave us so much to be optimistic about that it's now second nature. Thank y'all very much. Are there any questions or comments?
There were some questions.
Okay. And this is number 4, right? And this is the 25th, I think, yeah.
Okay, a brother asked, if Trump lives to 2024, do you think he could be reelected again?
Oh, yeah. Well, the way they're talking is if they would want him reelected. Okay, the history in brief. They wanted him elected. That's why Hillary Clinton, with all the gauges saying she would win, hands down, that this clown won. Okay. So somebody wanted him to win. Okay. Then they gave him 4 years to do his thing. But you see, they give everybody a time to, I want to run this part of town, boss man, and if you do, then I do this. If they give you that contract and you don't produce, you lose that contract. Okay, now, Donald Trump, if you give me the contract, boss man, I'll put the niggas in their place. Don't you worry about that. I'll break the back of the Iranians. I'll neutralize the war. I'll get people out of Afghanistan. I'm just telling you what he told them. That's what okay. He didn't do none of the things that he said he would do. Iran held on. That is a great miracle. Alhamdulillah. Huh?
No, I'm just saying through a pandemic, held on.
They held on and they couldn't get medicine. They couldn't get nothing. They did good. Okay, and now some of the signs are that there might be historical punishment on the American people or on America, because most of them is black, of course, which is bad for us. But the numbers are astronomical for the United States of America. In percentages and numbers, they passed 500,000 people long ago. That means they could catch up to have 1 million people dead. When they do that, they're going into the 1918 before anything. Okay. So they done brought Biden back because Trump didn't fulfill his, you have your, you got your run. You're going to get everything you need. You can tell people to kiss your behind. You can fly kites. You can do anything you want. But you got to produce. He haven't produced. Next thing, Don is not a threat to anything. If he gets any more out of line, all them people he got, they saying he got them. That don't mean nothing. They could blow up 3% of white folks to make it look like it's 40%. Because the only people they put on is that, you know what I mean? They could blow it up easy. It's their system. Okay, that's what they're doing now. That's what they're doing now. So could Trump come back? I think by the time voting people, it'll be about 1 zillion Latinos voting by then. The Negro ain't gonna vote for him. And the white folks is not gonna vote for him. The numbers of white folks that was out there, his desecration of Christianity, and they got a few white folks saying that we're still for him, they're exaggerating. His values are non-Christian, and everybody can see it. Well, I like feeling on their pussy because, and you know, this is what? They're lying. They're lying. Look, it's their media. They make it look like they want it to. They make it look like they want it to. And everything you see them doing right now, all this phony, flabbergasting stuff on the news, is their media. If it's theirs, it's like their movies. You go to their movies, they make the movie. They make the news. Everybody is on their team. They got it, okay? But alternatives, people don't get all their news on the news anymore. They get it all through all of this internet stuff. And 40% of that stuff may be real. Till they don't worry, they heading to get it. They going to get it, don't worry. But as of now, I would say they 40% of what, and 40% of truth against 60% of foolishness is a lot. That means you got the overwhelming part, because it makes more sense. Yeah, it makes more sense than that other stuff. Okay, so for the question, could Donald Trump come back? Okay, so do you think I answered that question that if Donald Trump, could he come back?
Yeah, you definitely answered that question.
Okay, all right.
Now, another brother commented in response to the brother's question about Trump coming back. And
Right.
he said, unless you enjoy religious freedoms being taken away, and you enjoy parental rights being taken away, and you enjoy males taking over female sports, causing loss of accomplishments and scholarships for females. That was like his response to the brother about Trump coming back as president. And then he also, this is a comment that he made about Imam Jamil. He says that he didn't say burning down. Dozens of Democratic politicians called for violence against conservative politicians.
No, he didn't say burn, baby, burn. He didn't mean. I went over that with the FBI when I was, man, that was 2001. That was 2001. We raised a lot of money in California at UC Irvine, and I said that the system says that Imam Jamil said, burn, baby, burn. He did, but he didn't mean, he meant, in those days, burn, baby, burn could mean dance, it could mean other things. So it didn't mean, he never told it, we're going to burn America down, because that is against the law. So, but they said that that's what Imam Jamil said. I don't know if I'm correcting his idea. No, Imam Jamil, that was, I corrected that in many lectures, but especially 2 days before 9/11. So that had to be 9/9/2001 when I gave that lecture at UC Irvine. Yeah.
And then another brother sent a message. He was saying that the message, this is from Tuesday's lecture. The message was enlightening. I feel a lot of things are encoded. I understand that we are surrounded by boss man mittens, S's.
Hmm.
May Allah continue to bless you in your endeavors to open up the minds of our people, not just us, but Americans in general.
Yes.
Regardless of reason for America, it's
Uh,
only real hope.
uh,
That was what the brother said.
Alhamdulillah.
And yeah, that's everything.
Okay. Alhamdulillah.